Welcome to the Motivated Martial Arts Podcast. Your hosts, Jackson White and Gavin Cook, have been friends and Taekwondo training partners for over 40 years. This podcast will bring you a mixture of their life stories, martial arts, and business experiences to motivate you in life and throughout your martial arts journey. Adding in a mixture of inspiring interviews and some of the best traditional martial artists around today. So over to your hosts, the Motivated Martial Artists.
Welcome to the Motivated Martial Artists podcast with hosts myself, Gavin Cook.
And Jackson White.
And today we've got Sarah Scott with us. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, Gav. Hi, Jackson.
Hello. So Sarah Scott is the current TAGB team physio. We've got her in today. We've got her via Skype. So we're going to have a little chat today about all things sports science, things like stretching and injuries and all that sort of stuff. So I'll let you kick off with the first question, shall I, Jackson?
Hey Sarah, good to have you on the show.
Hi there.
So can you start off just telling us a little bit of how you got into your martial arts?
Yeah, sure. I went to Bradford University to study physiotherapy, and I used to like keeping fit. I went to the local sports centre to do circuit training. Got talking to some of the ladies there. Unbeknownst to me, one of them was Grandmaster Walter's now wife, Maria. And there's some of the lads in there that were at his Taekwondo club. And I just thought, I like what they're doing, their stretches, their flexibility. Being, new to Bradford, I thought, let's take up a bit of self-defence as well. So yeah, unbeknownst to me at the time as well, one of my radiographer student friends, she'd started going to the Taekwondo university class. So she said, come along, come and have a watch. So I did, met Grandmaster Walter, Nayan, Tariq. And it was one of those moments where you open the door and everybody turns around to look at you. I think I was the only white person and I was the only girl.
With the martial arts then, so you trained with Master Walton. How did you find that moving from, I suppose, as a physiotherapist, whilst you were training, how advantageous was that you were doing a martial art as well?
For my training, I think at the time I kept them totally separate. When I was doing my physio degree, it's 40 hours a week, it's lectures, it's going out on placement, so it's a full-time uni course. And I just looked at it as a way of getting out of the university setting and meeting friends that were local to the area. Yeah. So I didn't mix the two up. When Grandmaster Walton was talking about different things at the end of class, he happened to mention that squad training's on this week for those that are going, and it was at Hinckley Leisure Centre.
We knew it well.
I went to school in Hinckley, and I was like, excuse me, did you just say Hinckley? He said, yeah, it's there on a Saturday. I went, but that's where I'm from. He went, really?
When was that? When did you...
As a belt, I was still a white belt.
Okay.
I used to go and train at squad training. But that was in the late 90s.
Yeah, in the noughties, eh? And that training venue was a naughty venue. I remember getting my feet cut up there on numerous occasions, running around the archery hall. Okay, so you went through all your physio training and became a certified physiotherapist. Yeah. How did you fall into being the Taekwondo Association of Great Britain's team physio?
I think before I'd gone to university to train as a physio, I had trained as a sports therapist. And they generally look at just sports injury. So I was already qualified to do that. During my first 2 years as a student, I was working with the local rugby league teams and the Halifax Town Rugby League and football at the Blue Sox Stadium.
Okay.
And Mr. Walton knew about this, and he said to me, did I want to come and get some work experience at the 98 World Championships, which was being held in Birmingham. So that was my entry into international competition. Had an absolutely brilliant time, and I don't think over the last, is it 20 odd years, I don't think we've ever had a tournament that has been quite as good as that one. The sheer size, the energy that was from all of the competitors, it was brilliant. So I've been doing it now since 1998.
What's one of the worst injuries that you've seen? Certainly in Taekwondo.
That first competition, they used to do jumping flying kicks, and I remember at that competition, a guy, not one of the British lads, he had done his jumping kick and he landed, but he snapped his ankle.
Oh, nice.
So his shin bone and his ankle, they dislocated, and it was an open fracture. And I remember sitting there, holding this lad's ankle, trying to keep him still. We had some paramedics, and they brought some gas and air. That's actually the worst one I have seen at a competition. But since then, they haven't done those kicks.
So, you mentioned that you had some work experience in rugby league. I know you've also done some rugby union. How are the injuries different from what you can see from rugby and other sports to what you see in Taekwondo? How do those injuries differ?
So the rugby injuries are trauma. They're direct impact. With a rugby player, the difference is their strength and conditioning is 100 times that of the Taekwondo fighters that I've had to see. So one of the big differences is Taekwondo, that's all they do. They train. They might train 4 or 5 times a week. Very, very few of them actually use the gym. And that is currently what I am trying to get our team more into. They only use the gym when they get injured, because it's then that I say, you need to do ABC. Yeah. But that's something that I think they're not slow, it's people just don't know. They don't know what works. They're a little bit limited in, I don't know if to try it or not. It's the not knowing. So it's about education.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So from my own experience, I carried on fighting until I was 42 years old. And I really genuinely believe that longevity was for the fact that I was mixing up quite a bit of gym work, a bit of weight training, a bit of plyometric training, and really mixing everything up just to keep those joints tight, keep the muscles well seasoned, and really to try and retain the power and speed. I think on the downside, that's really an area where my flexibility really suffered. Pushing out heavy weights, endurance weights, but then fighting to try and get that flexibility back as well. So would you recommend then, obviously, that people start maybe doing a little bit more cross training?
Oh, without a doubt. And the latest sports science research has come on tenfold in the last 10 years. And actually, it's been proven in the studies that we've looked at that strength training is just as effective at flexibility as doing flexibility exercises. There's a lot of, if I go to the gym, my muscles will get bigger, hence I will get stiffer. Actually, if you train your muscles to be stronger, they can pull on the joint more effectively. And when we talk about flexibility and mobility, we've got to be careful. Are we talking about flexibility as in length of muscle, or are we talking about mobility? Well, how far can we move a joint? And, one of the big questions is about the box splits. Well, to be able to do the box splits, you need a muscle to open up that joint and pull on it.
Yeah.
So it's all right having the stretch, but you need the power and the control, and that only comes from strong muscles. So in our sport, we need a combination of both. And if you look at what they're doing up at GB Academy, they have loads of things on YouTube. They're doing strength training. It makes them faster, it makes them stronger, it gives them more speed. We've just got to transfer that across to our athletes now. And we've got to start at a young age.
Okay, that's really interesting.
How do you think we should try to get that across to obviously Taekwondo students that are going to be listening to this podcast today? What would be your advice to them, Sarah, in terms of their strength training?
Well, I can only I do seminars for the BTC, which is the British Taekwondo Council, which is the governing body. So they're really up on science and education. They want to teach people. So they get the instructors to come in, we give out the research, we do the practical classes, we show the instructors, and the hope is that they will go back, and even if they only remember 2 or 3 of the bits of information we've given them, they can then pass it on to their students. A lot of the time, instructors, guys that have been doing Taekwondo, they've been doing it for 20 or 30 years, and they've not advocated change. No. They're doing what they were taught, I go on courses, I only know what I'm taught. Who's to say it's right or wrong?
Yeah.
But you've got to keep learning. Things have come on so much in the last, like I say, 20, 30 years. So you've got to start at the top, and you've got to educate everybody all the way down. Hopefully what, we can do with the courses, seminars that we run.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on a couple of your BTC courses, and I know certainly, obviously we were talking earlier on about the old school way of training. Used to be a lot of running. There used to be a lot of sort of static stretching at the beginning of the class, which as you said, which you said in your courses, it doesn't set you up for a good training session.
It helps if you know what is the class going to be about. I know some instructors plan what they're going to do each lesson. I know others just wing it, shall we say.
Yeah.
And that's okay if it works for you, but to know what you're going to do, so the research has shown that doing a static stretch before and so during the warm-up, that actually lessens your ability to jump. It deadens the nerve endings. It makes you more sluggish. So to start with, you need to do your dynamic stretches. That's like we would do high-rising kicks, do 10 on each leg. That's dynamic flexibility. That's moving stretches. The static stretches need to be done at the end of the class because you're then trying to lengthen the muscles that you've used, open up the joints. You're nice and warm. It should be easier to do. So just that bit of basic information, and then during the class, you can do some squats or lunges during the warm-up.
Yeah.
And muscular exercises, they're preparing your joints for what's to come.
Yeah, I know. We've started doing things like basic patterns just as a warm up as well. Anything just to get the body moving, as opposed to, I have to hold my hands up and say I was one of those old school instructors that used to do a lot of static stretching before the class had even started.
Yeah.
But I think it's just education, isn't it? At the end of the day.
We do it.
Yeah.
We still do it now. All of us do it. But actually, if we're going to be the best we can be, let's see what one or two little things we can add, and it will slightly improve the performance, that's all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay then, Sarah, that was really insightful there. So you've spoke about the way that we need to educate instructors because, as you've mentioned, people do what they've been taught, and if they don't know anything else, that's what they'll always do. So when you've been to classes and other people's classes and competitions, what are the biggest no-nos that you've seen students doing to warm up and to stretch?
A lot of the students don't warm up prior to going into the class. Now, that could be because of time, because of traffic, but every body is different, and we all know if we've got stiff back, stiff hips. So I always try and get to class about 15 minutes before, and I do my own warm-up. So being a little bit older, my hips are stiff, my lower back's stiff.
Yeah, we all feel that, Sarah.
So that's what I try and do. So one of the things then is to try and pass that knowledge on. So I'm hoping that when they see me and my son stretching, they will join in. And I have to say, a lot of them do now. But also in a class situation, again, because a lot of the instructors don't know the difference, it's getting into the right position to stretch a particular muscle. So typically, we're sitting on the floor, legs wide apart, and we lean forward. So we're actually targeting the groin and the hamstring. But in youngsters, especially the kids that are really, really flexible, their legs bend the wrong way. Instructors don't know, and what physios probably do, is there's an instance of hypermobility.
Yeah.
And in hip joints that are hypermobile, there's a tiny ligament that holds the socket and the ball joint together, and you can restrict the blood flow and you can cause necrosis. So you can actually start damaging a young child from an early age by not correcting technique.
Right.
So they have immense flexibility, but they're lacking the muscle control because they're weak or just because they don't know any different. So that's one thing. To stretch a muscle, you just need to know where it attaches. And to stretch it, you take the two ends away from each other. So I think that is something, and I don't know because I haven't done an instructor's course, so I have no idea. Maybe that should be added into the instructor's course.
Yeah.
Just basic stretching information. How to make it better, what I do, what I don't, and actually what to look out for in different age groups. Because you get loads of kids, but then you get mums returning, families, mums coming in with their kids to start training, and then you get the people that are over 40 that just want to start. Everybody's ability is different, and what is safe to do. So maybe we could put it into sections.
Yeah, just going back to the children bit, so I know something, as an instructor myself, obviously one thing I see, particularly with children, you do the classic sit down, legs nice and wide, stretch down to the centre, and then you tend to see the kids start to bow their knees in, and then you're always trying to get the that's it. Absolutely, and you see it a lot, and obviously you say to the kids, or say to the children, try to keep your toes facing up, but then you look away and they're doing it again, So I suppose, what advice could you maybe give really?
Do we then find a better stretch?
Yeah.
Do we not do that stretch because we've all seen the kids doing it?
Yeah.
So we can change the stretch. We can do it on a kneel down on one knee and have the other one out to the side. So you only do one leg at a time.
Okay.
And in that position, you're getting a strengthening component as well because they're having to control themselves from falling over.
Yeah, yeah.
They're not going to fall very far when they're on a bent knee.
What stretches have you seen that students have been implementing and it's actually really made you cringe, thinking, who's taught you that? Why are you doing it? And that they really shouldn't do?
Oh, that is a tricky one.
Yeah, without any names.
I'm not saying names.
Gavin Cook.
All of the stretches that I see are actually okay apart from some of the techniques.
Yeah.
What I don't see, if we're thinking our sport is we're on one leg, we're balancing, we're hopping, people are so hot on stretching the groin and the hamstring, they forget about the calf and the foot. That is what we rely on to make us hop up and down.
Yeah.
And yet, nobody does anything. Nobody. I've never been to a class, except tonight because I took the warm-up.
Very much appreciated.
You need to do calf raises. You need to get your toes working. You need to throw in a couple of balance exercises because the muscles in your foot are what are keeping us upright, really.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's not so much as everything that's being done wrong, that's technique, it can be corrected. It's that they're not applying function to the sport.
Okay, that's really interesting. So, one of the questions from our Facebook asked, what is your, and I think I can gauge this already, what is your opinion on stretching machines?
Right. They're very one-dimensional.
Yeah.
Again, you sit on, the ones that I've seen, you sit on them and they open your legs that wide.
Yeah, it's a medieval torture device they look like, half of them, don't they?
Yeah, it is. And I know there are others that you can sit on, as in sitting on a bike, and you can stretch forward and stretch your back. I have seen others, but not that that's particularly relevant to Taekwondo. If we are in a sport where we stand on one leg and move around, why would you want to do a static stretch in sitting?
Yeah.
It doesn't correlate.
Yeah.
It is a way of getting somebody to stretch. Some people love gadgets. And if you've got a couple of £100, brilliant. We don't need them these days. There's so many other things we can do.
Okay, if only I'd have only met you a few years ago when Gavin and I invested in our very first medieval stretching machine. We'd have saved ourselves a hell of a lot of pain and quite a bit of money as well.
Yeah, we would.
I mean, the stretch where you stand up in class with your back against the wall and get your partner to lift your leg in the air, that's a better stretch.
As long as it's performed right, though, I think that's. I mean, again, it's another one of those stretches, isn't it, where you do it in the class, and then you see kids lifting their partner's feet way over their head so they slip over them, and it's.
There's always a safety thing, but again, as an instructor, that's do instructors know what the teaching points are for that sort of stretch? It's a brilliant stretch.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to cut out accident, they can lie on their back and do one stretch. They can do it themselves with one leg in the air.
Yeah.
It's safer. They're not going to injure themselves.
Yeah.
But it's how do you progress, and you progress things by standing up, because that is what we do in our sport.
Yeah. I mean, it's just at the end of the day, it's just education, isn't it? And I think it's important. It's important to somehow find a way. I mean, this is the reason why we're doing things like this podcast. It's great because hopefully there'll be instructors that will be listening as well as students, and they can hopefully take on board sort of things that you're saying really and use it.
Well, they can come to a seminar and meet me and do it.
Yeah. Or you could just come to my class and do a warm up for me. So next time you're up in Yorkshire.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay then, Sarah. So what are your thoughts then? So we've talked about stretching machines and different types of stretches. And one of our other Facebook group members has asked, $6 million question, how can they get to do the box splits? And is it something that everybody can do?
Right, so from a science point of view, not everybody will be built in such a way that they can do the box splits. So the hip socket, and then you've got the leg bone, that fits into it. Hip sockets can be different shapes, and the only way we will ever know that is to MRI or X-ray everybody, which isn't going to happen. So if we were to look at population, those people that are Asian as a culture, they have been shown to have a much shallower hip socket, which means the ball of their thigh bone can move around more freely. Whereas Caucasians, the hip socket is actually quite deep, so the ball isn't going to move very far. If you liken it to having a cup and a saucer, Caucasians have a cup. You're not going to get much movement. If you stuck a rolling pin in a cup, you're not going to get far.
Okay.
If you put a rolling pin, the edge of the rolling pin, onto the saucer, there's loads of movement there. So some people are genetically designed to have more flexibility. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I don't get this fascination with everybody wanting to do it.
Because it looks good.
Unless you are a gymnast,
Yeah.
because gymnasts need to do it. But if we were to look at our kicks, the nearest thing to getting a box split, I think, would be a high side kick.
Yeah.
Now, to do the box split, do we do any high section side kicks in any of the patterns after black belt? I don't know, that's why I'm asking. I always get back to structure and function. I know we do a lot of high section turning kicks, but the box split is a totally different position to a high section turning kick.
I think that really stems from the days of Jean-Claude Van Damme. You know, and he'd be there warming up in the side of the ring, of course, in his movies. You know, and that's what people see, and that's what they really aspire to do, isn't it? The aesthetics of it.
And I don't mean to be rude, but how old is that guy?
Hey, look at Bill Superfoot Wallace.
It's one of those things where, you know, that's what everybody expects a martial artist to do, the box split.
Yeah.
If you're lucky enough to do it, brilliant. If you start at a young age, brilliant. You can train to do it. But as soon as you want to do it standing on one leg, that's where your strength and conditioning comes in, because your supporting leg has got to be strong enough for you to lift your other leg up.
Sure.
And then we've got to look at, as you fall into that high section side kick, you've got to have really strong abdominals at the side, your obliques, and your back, because what's your trunk supposed to do while you put your leg in your head?
Yeah.
So, again, it's just really one-dimensional, like that sort of thing. And also, if you are sparring, who's going to be that tall? It goes on weight and height, roughly.
Have you ever seen Tim Chow?
If you're really, really heavy, you might need to kick someone who's really, really tall. I just think there's so much more to our discipline than being able to do the boxing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, it's important to be safe. It's important to stay healthy at the end of the day and prevent injuries, which is obviously, you know, whenever you do a contact sport, you know, you're always going to get injuries, whatever, you know, any sport really.
Yeah.
And it's preserving our bodies, isn't it, the best we can, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got another question again from our Facebook page, and it's something that I've always suffered with since I've been about 18 is sciatica. And what's the best way to, I suppose, tackle it in terms of warming up and cooling down and just, you know, and generalising in training, really?
so sciatica is a general term for posterior thigh pain. That's what it means.
Yeah.
But it can be caused by a number of different things. So commonly it can be related to a disc issue. So contrary to popular belief, the disc in the spine does not pop out.
Okay.
What happens is it ruptures and the fluid, the gel inside, bursts, and that gel presses onto the sciatic nerve and causes pain to go down the nerve route. So the sciatic nerve comes down through your bottom, down the back of your thigh, and at your knee it splits into two parts. So you can have ankle pain, calf pain, hamstring pain. You don't have to have back pain with it. The other common cause is just degeneration and the bones in your back rubbing against each other, and that can give you sciatic pain as well. Now, it is one of the most popular issues in Taekwondo, and it's mainly to do with the lack of mobility between the hip, the pelvis, and the lumbar spine.
Okay.
So, when we were talking about stretches and mobility earlier, we're so hot on hamstring and groin stretches, and that is for muscles, that we forget that the hip and the lumbar spine need to be mobilised. And with mobilisations, we're talking about the joint. So it's one of those things, again, we talked about, what can people do, what are they doing wrong? What they're not doing is any lower back mobility or flexibility. And that's one of the things that I get all of my fighters with the same problem to do. So we're always looking at loosening the back off. There's things like Pilates, which will look at strengthening the abdominal muscles and all of those muscles around joints, your deep muscles, stabilising muscles. The problem I find with yoga, especially for Taekwondo people, yoga is supposed to stretch you and leave you feeling rejuvenated. We are already stretching. We don't get hamstring tears in Taekwondo because we stretch them that much. So if we were to lean down and touch our toes, that's dead easy. But what people do is they stick their bottom out, they rotate at the pelvis rather than mobilise through their lumbar spine. So that is one thing that I would get people to do more of, either as a cool down or as a warm up. So it's easy, you can just go onto Google and type in lumbar spine mobility exercises.
Okay.
And it will come up with a series of different things. But it's about rotation of the pelvis. And that is the problem in Taekwondo.
Yeah, really interesting.
That's great.
So, I know that you've recently started training back in Taekwondo after quite a long break. How have you found it?
Well, mentally or physically?
A little bit of both, I suppose. As you get older, none of us are getting any younger, are we, Gavin? Especially Gavin. It's you find different challenges. So it'd be interesting to get a bit of an insight of the sort of physical and mental challenges that you've had to endure whilst starting back on your Taekwondo or martial arts journey.
Thank you. So I stopped competing and training properly 18 years ago, and that is when I was competing at the Midlands Championships, and I snapped my cruciate ligament in my left knee.
Ooh.
It just went pop.
Yeah.
Never had a problem before, so that's when I stopped.
Was that through lack of stretching, do you think?
No, it's through not doing it. It's going for conditioning, actually.
It's going for the big axe kick, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I did it doing that. That's the worst thing. So physically, the challenge for me has obviously been coming back. I do train, I do lots of different stuff, but Taekwondo is quite specific. So my hips are stiffer, my back's stiffer. So physically, I have changed the training I do so that I am in a fitter state to do Taekwondo.
Yeah.
So I do a lot more hip and lower back. I've had to do a lot more plyometrics and jump type training for hopping. So that's been a challenge. The other thing is I introduced my 14-year-old son to Taekwondo.
Well, that's a challenge for any parent.
It is with mine, he's massive. But he only wanted to come back because he wanted to beat me up. So we have a little family challenge where if I don't keep fit and move quicker, he will kill me. That's his goal in life.
I have the same challenge, Sarah, because my eldest is 14 and he wants to knock me about now. You know, he's getting his own back over the years of training.
And you know, I love that I'm teaching him to be competitive. He's just learning. He's just got his green belt, so he's got to learn to control it as well, which is hard. Again, you know, we look at changes physically and scientifically. 14 to 17 is when in lads is when you see the most testosterone being thrown around, and they're learning about their strengths. They don't know their own strengths. So learning control and learning how to move their body differently. I've got to be careful because he will knock me out one of these days, bless him. But I suppose mentally, I'm the sort of person that likes to set myself a challenge. Having got to red stripe when I left, you know, it's right, I'm going to get my black belt. So that is what I'm going to do.
When are you taking your black belt, Sarah?
October this year.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
As long as you keep the training up.
Yeah.
I will.
Just quickly, Sarah, you just touched on. I suppose it's the thing for me really, because obviously like I say, my lad's 14, and I spoke to him tonight, and he said, I said, "What are you up to, Harry?" He said, "I'm in the garage doing some pull-ups." I said, "Well, don't touch the weights." And I suppose just going on to that, you know, what's a good sort of age to kids to maybe start looking at resistance training and things like that, you know?
Well, any age is good as long as it's controlled and they're being taught the right technique.
Yeah.
So my son started coming to the gym at 10, 11 with me.
Yeah.
He's now 14. He's learned the technique. He knows the basic moves. Now he's getting stronger. We are adding more weight. What I find, because they have their growth spurt, really between 12 and 16 is massive for most kids. They get a little bit like Bambi on ice.
Yeah.
They don't know what their arms and legs are doing, so they become less coordinated.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of power, and so they become more clumsy. So as long as they're being taught properly, there's no problem at all. I've seen powerlifters, kids that start powerlifting at 10, 11.
Okay,
They
well.
start with no weight, they go through the technique, and then you can add the weight on gradually. It's down to the coaching that they get.
Yeah, I think that's right. I suppose one of the challenges Gavin will have is that his 14-year-old can probably lift more than him now.
Yeah.
Fine, Gavin, don't worry.
Okay then, Sarah. So last question then, just to wrap up. You know, it's fantastic that you've started back training, and you know you live right near to me, so you come and train with me. But also, I know you train with Master Walton as well, and you know, always within different instructors within different areas, there are always slight nuances. So, how have you found it training under two instructors? I suppose two totally diverse instructors from two different generations. And what have you found the positives and the negatives to be?
It has been difficult getting back into training. First of all, there's some changes with the actual techniques anyway, and in the pattern, different things, different applications of why you do things.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that was something I found when I came back after a 16-year break. You know, a lot of the patterns had changed, and some of the moves had changed within them.
So that's what I found the most difficult. Obviously, like you said, then I've got a Midlands instructor and a Northern instructor, and I know we have a giggle about elf dancing.
Yeah.
But obviously, the senior instructor is right.
Oh, most definitely.
That's all I'm allowed to say. But from the positive thing is, I have met a whole new group of people. Taekwondo is like a family environment.
Yeah.
I've worked in a lot of sport, a lot of professional sport. There isn't anything like it. Now, whether that's because my other sports have mainly been male dominated, your rugby league, your rugby union, Taekwondo is for all ages, male, female, whichever genders people choose to be these days, because we can't forget that. So that's what I've enjoyed. I get double the training, but I also get double the knowledge.
Yeah.
And it's just taking out the bits that actually suit my style, because we've all got a different style, and we all learn differently. So that was the hardest thing, actually, who's right, who's wrong. There are certain things that you do right, the certain techniques, you know, application, turn your foot here, put your heel here. That's all important. the negative really is, again, then going back to the different styles of elf dance, or where do I start my block from?
Yeah. I think
we have so much fun in class.
And it'll be a debate that goes on till the end of time, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And obviously then there's the travel. For me to get to Bradford to train for an hour and a half, it takes me 2 hours.
Yeah. But I mean, I know I've experienced the same sort of thing with it, because obviously my original instructor was Jackson White Senior, and now I train with Grandmaster Walton as well. So, and again there was massive amount of difference between the stances and the blocks and the moves, and even though it's the same association, the same sport, there is quite a lot of differences between the north and the south. So.
Yeah, it is, and I know a lot of the committee members, I've spoken to people about it, well, who's right, who's wrong. The committee members will tell you that at a black belt grading, they don't need to know where that student's from, because they can tell you to the region where that student's from.
Yeah.
So I think it does go on a lot.
Yeah.
And we know there's so many offshoots of ITF styles and WTF, that's how it is. But we're all under the same umbrella.
Yeah.
Definitely. So I think we're going to wrap it up there, Sarah. It's been really, really insightful.
Yeah, it's been brilliant.
45 minutes almost. As a physiotherapist, you are a specialist in Taekwondo, and I know within the physiotherapy fraternity, you're highly thought of. So any of our martial artists out there that are listening, how can they get in touch with you to get some martial arts specific sports injury or physiotherapy?
Well, if they're members of the BPC, obviously they can ring them, or the TAGB, the Taekwondo Association of Great Britain. On the website, there'll be people they can contact that can get hold of me. We have our own Facebook page and website, which is the Hinckley Physiotherapy Clinic Limited. So all of our details are on there. And then if they know you guys, you know me, I don't mind if you want to pass my number on, just with any specifics.
Okay, so they can probably get hold of you on the our Facebook page, and we can pass those messages on if needed.
Yes, that's fine. Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions anyone's got.
Okay, that's great.
Fantastic.
Hey, Sarah, really appreciated having you on this evening.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me.
So, Sarah, just one final question. As we've called this podcast the Motivated Martial Artist Podcast, just one question that we're going to try and we're obviously asking all of our guests is what motivates you?
What motivates?
It doesn't have to be within martial arts, just in life in general.
I don't want to fail.
Good.
I will do everything I can. I'm also an Aries. We are fire signs, and we will give it our all.
Brilliant. Great. Well, thank you very much for that, Sarah.
Okay, no problem.
And it's been great having you on the show today.
Yeah, and we'll speak soon.
Okay, lovely.
Thanks very much. Bye for now.
Take care.
Okay, see you training.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.